I am finally sharing all of the templates, databases, formulas, pages, prompts, and just all of the things in Notion that help me manage content creation and my business. This is a massively long video because of how much is inside my creator business blueprint and how thoroughly I show you how all of this works. If this seems like something you absolutely need by the end of this video, I will have it linked in the description. And I do have a free Notion hub that has a collection of all of the free templates that I've ever created for you, and I'll have that linked below as well, of course. But this video is already long enough as it is, so let's hop inside my Notion system. This is the intro page for your creator business blueprint. I will have this video embedded here along with the video transcript if you want to follow along, or if you ever need to reference back to this video. Now, Notion can be really overwhelming and even intimidating at first. There's just so much that you can customize, and everyone's Notion is a little bit different in how they like to use Notion as well. So I did include a section here, a playlist of videos that Notion actually created, so you can learn the basics of Notion and feel much more comfortable using Notion. However, I designed the creator business blueprint to be very straightforward and easy to use. So even if you're new to Notion, you should feel very at home in your creator business blueprint as you start getting used to things. So this is where you'll go inside for your creator business blueprint, and that's where all of the fun stuff lives. But I did want to create this little intro page. That way I can share the video tour with you, as well as the playlist if you're new to Notion. But I also created a graphic for you that you can customize, and we'll see that when we hop into our blueprint. But this is the link for the Canva template where you can actually go in and customize and create your own graphics for your creator business blueprint if you'd like to. I did also link my shared Notion hub. So if you click into this, it'll bring you to my shared Notion hub where I have additional templates that you might find useful. And this can just be for business or personal life. I included lots of templates that I've created for free, as well as a few other freebie items like icons, as well as things that you can go to find even more icons or widgets or GIFs, just whatever you want for your Notion and to customize your Notion. You can find that here. And I do also have videos on past Notion projects or how I use Notion linked down here as well. So that's a look at that. I do have that linked here in the front. But let's hop inside Creator Business Blueprint so we can actually see the inside. So here is that graphic that I created. This is just a decorative little element for your business blueprint. You could put a vision board here. You could put your own pictures here, whatever you'd like to go here. You could also even create more of these sections if you want even more templates for your business and just use that to replace this. But it's easier than ever. You can just go to that Canva template, customize it, maybe put in your own quotes or, change up the color, whatever you like. You can press the three dots and click replace. And this is where you can upload your own files, add your own embeds, or even look up your own photos or GIFs here and add those there. So at the top we have quick links. These are just pages that I added that I thought you might reach for the most. And these are actually based off my own quick links. So this entire template is based off templates that I use to manage my business. I've just removed my stuff or most of my stuff. That way you can add in your own. And these are the pages that I find myself gravitating towards most. But if you wanted to change any of these, you could. And you can do that by, let's say you want to change out routines. I'm just going to delete that. I'm going to click at, and then I can at any one of the pages. So let's say I want to use, social media strategy or product revenue first. What I can do is search up that page and I can change out any of the quick links and it'll bring me to that page here. So you'll see that the templates are kind of broken down into different types. So we have content creation based, we have strategy, we have templates that you might share publicly or with others and that you kind of want to keep separate from everything else. So you have your own section here. You have an offering section, a resources section, and then a founder's corner. And this is for the founder, you have your creator business. So things like internal and finances and employee management, tax and legal stuff. And then there is an archive folder. So if you ever done with a template or a folder or an idea, you can just drag that here into archive, and that way you have it and can reference it later. So let's first start with content, and we'll hop into content map. So here's a look at content map. Inside content map, you'll see that there are additional pages specifically created for content. So there is an archive section, there's a hashtag section. So this allows you to paste in hashtags that you find useful for your business. There's an ideas section, and we'll talk a little bit more about this as we get into kind of the bulk of the content page. But this is where all of your content ideas are filtered out. And it's even broken down by YouTube, Instagram, and website. If you use other platforms, you can create new filters for that by hitting add new view, or you can duplicate this and make it even easier and then change the filter. So here you can change your platform to TikTok, and then we can just rename this to TikTok ideas. You can also add a new view if you want to see it in a board, gallery, list, and all of that. There's also calendars here, and this just simply shows a calendar and any content that you have scheduled. Sometimes I think it's really nice to just see it all laid out nice in a big calendar, and so that is what I've done here. So that is content that you are still in the process of either scripting, editing, filming, all of that here. And then if you go over to publish, you'll see content that you have already published. Going back to our content map, these pages link out to the Collabs page. So this is for sponsorships, partnerships, anything like that. And we'll get into that Collabs page in a little bit. And then we have content guidelines. So these are really helpful for staying consistent and on brand for you. So I do have it linking out to the branding page as well, which we'll get into. But you'll see that all of these pages are interconnected, making it really easy to manage the bulk of your creator-based business. So I have one for YouTube guidelines and Instagram guidelines. These can of course be adapted to the platforms that you use that you want to stay consistent with. I have some things here, editor information if you use an editor, about an editing style, thumbnail style effects, description and video examples. And then for Instagram, I have highlights and then the editing or feed style for your videos and your pictures. So for editing information, I have space where you can write information like how to access your video files, where they're stored, Google Drive links, whatever. You can add that here and share this out with the editor. I have an about section so you can write a little bit about your business as it pertains to content creation on YouTube. I have editing style, and so here are a few notes that you can go off of. How you want videos to come across, the certain effects, certain transitions, certain music, different types of color grading or B-roll. You can take your notes here as well. For thumbnail style, you can have your overall design as well as a few examples. And so these are just images. And of course you can move these around and place them however you want. And that's what's great about Notion, is just how customizable it is. There's also effects. So if you want your editor, if you use one, or anyone you collaborate with, and even just as a good reference for yourself that you need to come back to contain and remain that consistency and managing kind of these aspects that are small little details but that are important to stick with, you can actually upload and link them here in this list view. So you can type out the name of the effect, let's say a wipe transition, and then a place to add the file if you wanted to. Also description. So if you have a specific description that you always use as a template for your videos, things like that, you can paste that here, as well as video examples. So this is a really important section for me that I use in adding videos that I'm most proud of. That way I can always come back to these as examples to see what went really well for these videos and what I and my audience particularly enjoyed about these videos. That way I can achieve that with each video that I publish. And so that's a section I've included here. For Instagram, we have examples of what each highlight is, and then your editing and feed style for Instagram. So those are just some content guidelines that can be really easy to kind of write in for your own brand or your own business. That way you're kind of remaining consistent across, all the different platforms. This is a section here where you can quickly add a content idea to your database. So if you come up with ideas, rather than losing the idea as you're trying to navigate to your content map and to your ideas database, you can just click this button here and then start writing out your idea, digital planning for beginners or something like that. Here you can start writing out your caption or different categories that might fall under, the format that you want to use, the platform that you're thinking about, the type of post, whether it's a vertical video, a long form YouTube video, a carousel, a story, when you might publish it, if you have any sponsors, and then the status will be idea. You can see that with each content that you add to this content map, you have this template here actually. So you can come in and start outlining the concept of your idea, adding in thumbnail ideas if it's a YouTube video, adding a caption, writing out a script, getting your shots, whether it is of your face, of whatever you're doing on your desk, what the content idea is, and where that pertains directly in the script. And then when you actually go to publish the content, you know, if it's a YouTube video, a description, if there's any sponsorship info or requirements that you need to meet, timestamps that you want to add here, keywords, as well as video, title ideas, and then any links that you mention in the video that you'll need to remember to link later. This is the template that I use to plan all of my content for KDigitalStudio. A lot of it pertains to YouTube, but this is still the same template and flow and workflow that I follow with posting any content. I also have these pages here that link out just to short form content and then just to long form content because it can be easy for me to kind of mix up the two. And I like having separate pages for each, and they look a little empty right now just because I only have sample content in, but this will have a list view of all of the content you have planned that you can see by calendar, by grid preview. So I have it to where if you upload an image, you can see a preview of that as the grid, and then your ideas list, of course, for short form. If you scroll down, you'll see the upcoming events that you have for the week. So for instance, if you have stuff that you're scripting, that you still need to work on, that you're working on publishing, you can see the status of all of that. That will all appear here for the week as well. So if I change this to, let's say, the 2nd, it will pop up here if it's not already scheduled. Okay, so you can see it pop up here. That way you can see the status of it and you can click into it, and then, you know, as things get scheduled or published, you can update that status here. So this is for YouTube content. So if I add in Instagram content, I can see that here as well. And this will sort out Instagram and TikTok, and this sorts out YouTube. Any other content that you add will get sorted here. And if we look at the different platforms, we have Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, Pinterest, and a website. And of course, if there are other platforms you want to post to, like X or Threads, Tumblr, I don't know. If you have other platforms, Lemon 8, you can add those here as well, and come over to filters to sort those. Anything that is completed will move off of these tables. So this is just everything that's already in production. And if you want to see your published content, you come over to archive and you'll see all of the published content live here. So that is a look at Content Map. This is something I use all of the time for publishing content for KDigitalStudio. It's been really helpful, especially the already created template here. So you'll see that there is one for new video and new idea. I always just use the new video template just because I find that to be the most straightforward workflow for me to use. But you can also come in here and edit this template if you ever want to change up anything like the icons, any of the properties, the concept, or just the overall flow. This is something you can edit, but this is what I found to be really helpful for developing and planning my own content. And that is what I use across all of the different platforms. So hopping in back to the Creator Business Blueprint, we'll hop into Collabs next, and this is where you can share and link out your affiliate stuff, as well as any ongoing collaborations or partnerships. So if there's like outfit links or products that you use, rather than always trying to find those links again, you can share them all here with yourself, and then you can come in and copy these URLs to share with your audience. Down here is where you can track your collaborations, your commissions, your sponsorships, anything you have going on, as well as links to those specific creator portals with those businesses, when content or publish date is due, the rate of the project, so if, you know, how much you're being paid essentially, and then how you're being paid, whether you've already received payment or not, whether it's based on commissions or royalties or if it's a gift. And you actually come in here and take further notes if you need to for this. You also have status here, whether it was an inquiry that you need to follow up on, whether it's just a gift. And then in progress, things that might be on hold, in progress, active, or in review. And then whether something has been completed, you know, scheduled, completed, or archived, in which case we'll move off of this template here. You also see links out to Content Map and Media Kit because these tend to be the most pertinent pages for collabs, but again, you can always come in here and change those as well. Speaking of Media Kit and collabs and collaborations, let's go ahead and hop into the Media Kit. So this is a Media Kit template that you can use and obviously update for your own brands and businesses. You can come up here and change the cover to one that's on brand for you, as well as change the icon here. And this just goes into how you can use this template. You want to make sure that you update your profile picture and add in your own information, as well as add in your own numbers. So these are just numbers that I've pulled, you know, for followers or subscribers. And if you actually just tap into this, you can change these numbers. You know, you can also put, you know, relevant parts of your niche here, as well as write a short bio. And this is a great page to just share and link out with any brands or businesses or just anyone you work with, just so they can see the full picture without you having to do a lot of back and forth. I found this really helpful. For here, you can add in your analytics. And what I like to do is come in and add a toggle. So with using Notion, you can hit a backslash and it will actually give you all of the blocks that you can use in Notion. I like to just type out what block I'm looking for. So I'm looking for a toggle, and you can do a lot here. You can do different headings for your toggles. Let's just do toggle 3. And something I get asked a lot is where my audience is located. So we could do audience, demographics, and then inside the toggle, I can write the percentage of US based versus, you know, UK based, things like that. And I can also provide screenshots by doing the image backslash and uploading image files that way. So that's a great way that you can use these analytics sections to add in your own analytics. I also included a features section. I think it's great if you have worked with companies or brands or whoever you're trying to work with, you know, it's great to have features, press kits, or, you know, examples of your content that you feel really align with the values and mission of your brand and business. So I do have this database here created where you can go in and add your own. So for example, you can write, in this case, what the title of the video is, a brief description of the collab that you did, as well as the collab type, the company that it was, and then I like to add a little image and then the URL for them to quickly jump into that to see that if they'd like. For here, you can add any of the companies that you have worked with, and I highly recommend adding a link to link out to any articles or testimonials or anything that these companies may have said about you. Of course, you want to go in and change any yourself that you've worked with. And if you haven't worked with any, then you can just delete this section and come back to it later when you have. Then there is the offerings section. So here's where you can write your rates and a description about what that, you know, feature or service offering is. And this can be a great way to kind of get a baseline of your rates, and then you can go back and forth with the company afterwards as far as making sure that your rates and your goals both align in a way that is great for, in a way that is beneficial for both parties. Depending on how you're going to use this media kit and how you collaborate with other brands or businesses or companies, things like that, this can be adapted, of course, for your own workflow and, business philosophy. So that was a look at the media kit. I do have it under the public section. That way you don't accidentally make changes to other pages or share any of these other pages that might have information that you don't necessarily want shared out. So I highly recommend, if you're sharing out a template to the public, to put it shared. At least that's how this template is marked. Of course, you can use these templates how you see fit. All right, so hopping back to strategy, this is kind of the core of your business branding, the routines that your business follows, the roadmap that will guide you to the goals that you want to accomplish, as well as your strategy for social media and the revenue that you bring in if you have a product-based business. Of course, if you don't have a product-based business, you can drag these to the archive, maybe use them later, or maybe you can adapt them for your own business workflows. But I created this business blueprint to service a lot of different businesses with a lot of content creation added, just because I feel like that's very important for all businesses at this point, is to have some level of content creation. So let's hop into branding so you can see a look at that. I have sections for your brand files, the mission, vision, and values of your business, copywriting, image, style, and photography, as well as your branding colors and your branding fonts. So you can actually go in and add images of your font, the hex codes, RGB and CMYK values. So here is a look at the colors at a glance. But then I have an add/edit section. That way it's easier to add your colors in or make changes to your colors with the table view. I also have a typography section, and so this is where I created an image of what the font looks like, and then when that font is used with headings, subheadings, as an accent font, or buttons. And then I had to remove them from the Creator Business Blueprint template that you will get, just because you won't have the licensing for these fonts. If you like these fonts, by the way, you can go and purchase them yourself. But this is where I have the files specifically linked for those fonts, just so I always have them. And if I need to work with a designer or an editor, things like that, they have access to those fonts as well. I made it easier to download fonts for myself by making a download font section. That way I can see the files linked here and I can just click them to download them. It's also an easy way to add and edit fonts as well, to have this table view. Over here at the top, I have a brand file section, and this is where I actually upload the files for my brand, and this can be really helpful to have a separate location where all of these files are stored. And if I ever work with anyone else that needs access to these files, I can simply share this as well. So I have sections here for, whatever my brand uses, my logos, my profile picture, and then I have it to where it's tagged as current. So if I need to update certain business files, or if they're, maybe I updated my branding, I can actually archive it. I also have this created property. That way I can see when I last created and uploaded, which can be really helpful to see, over time, how consistent you're being with keeping up with these files, or if something just needs to be updated for your brand. So if you go to needs updating, that is where that will filter out to, and then you'll see the archived files, which you'll see the files that you've archived for your business as well. And these can be great to look back on too. Then we have the mission and values section, and this is where you can write out the mission of your business, the core beliefs of your business, the primary goal or problem that your business is trying to solve, an ideal customer section, as well as a brand tone section. And this is really helpful, your North Star of the business. I have a copywriting section, so if there is a specific tone of your brand or the way you say things, you can have that referenced here. And then I have an image, style, and photography section. So if you have a specific way that your photos are color graded or edited, or the way different things come across in your photos, the style of your photos, you can write notes for that here as well. So this is the branding section. This is a very popular page that I use almost every day for my business because I reference my brand files and my colors and my fonts a lot. So this can be really, really helpful for managing your business and staying consistent. Next, we have routines, which is exactly what it sounds like, your business routines. I have it set out by routine, personal, and business because a lot of my business and personal life overlap. So I have a section where I can write in my schedule that way. And I also have kind of a work schedule here, and I have it broken up by YouTube, products, short form, and then my outputs of the day. And so this can be really helpful. Of course, you can go in and obviously make your own changes, but these are different themed days that I've created for myself. And so if you have specific routines that you follow in your business, this is a great page to do so. The next page is roadmap, and this is where you can write out the bigger overarching goals of your business, and you can do this for any year. It doesn't have to be 2026 or even in the next year. I also have a variable section. So if you're not sure exactly when you hope to achieve it in a specific year, you can put it under variable, and that way you don't have to commit to a specific year just yet, even if you want to go ahead and get that goal written down. So here are the main goals, and these are display goals. You'll see that down here in the list lists all of the goals for the business, but you can choose to display or not display it. So if you want to prioritize a certain goal or see it kind of, in a big card up here at the top, you can choose to display it up here. And then this is where you can see a breakdown of the goals. So I have it to where you can assign a specific year and then assign a specific cycle, say Q1, Q2, Q3, or Q4, or variable, of course, and then a specific month that you want to achieve that goal. So for example, my Cyber 2026 digital planner launch, I wanted to achieve it in 2025 in Q4 in the month of October, and then I can change that to complete actually. So here you can write and type in your progress. So you could type whatever progress amount you need, and you'll see that in the bar here, as well as the status, whether it's on deck and hasn't been started yet, in progress and editing, review, schedule, or completed. And then again, that goal type, whether you want to display it or not display it. And then here is a date range that you can assign for that goal as well. And then if you click over into timeline view, you can see it in a timeline. So that is a look at the roadmap. You can also click up here for these kind of quick link pages. So if I go into in progress, you can see a look at all of the things that are in progress. And then if you go to complete, you can see all of your completed goals here as well. The next page is social media strategy, and this is where you can strategize for future content that you later add to your content map. So you have quick link pages to keyword research. So if you are researching different keywords that you use with your blog posts or other content, you can come in here and make note of that research. So you can write the monthly search volume of said keyword, the platform that you're searching for that keyword on, priority, whether it's a low keyword or you really want to prioritize a specific keyword, as well as the competition, whether it's low, medium, or high, and then any notes that you want to take for that as well. Then we have a quick links page for ChatGPT prompts. So if you use ChatGPT for your business, you can save the prompts that you felt like were really beneficial for the content that you were able to get out from ChatGPT. So I have a few examples for ChatGPT prompts that you can use. This one is for Pinterest trends. I have one for social media content calendar, and then I have one for a trend breakdown. And you can see that they're pretty thorough, and they are using the information that you have already come up with. Keywords that you have already come up with is based on content that you have already created. It's really using and helping you generate more ideas based off stuff that you have already created yourself as a human. So this isn't doing any of the work for you. So this isn't doing all of the work for you, but it is helping you with the work that you've already done. And that is the ChatGPT prompts. Then I have specific workflows, whether you're doing a new post, checking in weekly, or checking in monthly. So let's just check weekly, for instance. So this is where it's a checklist for strategizing further for your social media. So for example, we have YouTube, and I have a star here because YouTube is where I base all of my content from. So YouTube is my main content generation source. And then I'm basing the content that I create on YouTube and repurposing it for Instagram, Pinterest, or TikTok, or generating new ideas from that main piece of content for Instagram, Pinterest, or TikTok. And you can go in and add other platforms that you want to make sure that you're checking in with weekly or monthly as far as analytics and strategizing your content for those platforms. But for YouTube, this is my main content engine, so I do have a star by it just to denote that. Review last week's video analytics, revisit videos from the past 6 to 12 months that have similar themes as the video I posted that week, check the search terms and the suggested traffic for clues on what's doing really well, identify repeat viewer questions or comments that I might be able to turn into future content, refresh any thumbnails or videos for anything, refresh thumbnails, titles, all of that for older videos if I notice a performance dip, and then note trends in what viewers are responding to this month, whether it's, a specific song, a specific point that I've made in past content, if there are search terms that my audience is continuously looking up that I haven't created new content about, things like that. I have it for each platform. And I have workflows for right after you make a new post and then what to do weekly and monthly to check in with that post. Here are checklists for content opportunities and Pinterest pins to make, and these are based off of the workflows in this checklist here. And then I have two databases, high performing posts and low performing posts, so you can keep track of things that really outperform most of your other content, and then stuff that just doesn't perform up to par with your content. That way you can kind of dissect what worked well and what didn't. And, I have it listed out here. So for example, you can mark your performance as low or high and it'll sort it correctly. And then what that platform was, the post URL and the post format. So maybe if you had a low performing post, maybe changing a carousel to a single photo or a short form video might do much better. And then I have a spot where you can write where you got most of the engagement and where you got the least engagement. So whether you had more views and more comments, or whether you didn't have very many likes or shares on this post. And then I have a section for notes where you can write why you thought the post performed really well or didn't perform really well. And this can be really helpful in strategizing future content to share. So I'm gonna come to layout and I'm actually gonna hit wrap all content. That way you can actually see the notes. But here, I think this post did not perform as well because it wasn't as easily shareable or relatable. I could try with a better hook or a new post format entirely. So that's where you can kind of write your notes here for these. And so that is a look at social media strategy, a very important page I feel in kind of pushing the business forward that you have. The next page is product revenue tracker, and I'm going to come back to this page after we talk a little bit about product management under offerings. So product management is a very important page for me as a product-based business. If you're not a product-based business, you might be able to adapt this further in your business or just send this to archive, but this is great for product-based businesses, this page specifically. You see I have quick link pages here for product ideas, the product archive, and then product descriptions. If I come in here, it's going to filter out any product ideas you have. That way the main page is specifically just products that are already in production at some level, whether that is you finally start planning for the actual product or whether it's actually in progress, almost done or ready to launch. Anything that has not started would be considered a product idea. Product archive is your finished products. So these are your complete, and you'll see those here that you can reference later. And then product descriptions. So depending on where you post, whether that's Etsy or your website, things like that, you can go in and actually type your product description here. That way it's easy to copy and paste, so you maintain some consistency across your product descriptions. Here is an overview and a look at the current work for your products that you already have in place. That we can see at a glance how many products are in progress, what products are almost done, products that are ready to launch, or things that you're still just simply planning. So these are products that I have in production, and I have them broken down by product type, and these are things that you can go in and change yourself. So for your product category, you can actually go in and change these. So you can click the three dots here and then change whatever that product type is. These are the product types I have in my business. And I do also have types like freebie, update, refresh, and bug, which we'll get into as we go further down this product management page. But you'll see for your products here, I have what the status is, of course, my progress, which isn't connected specifically to anything because I feel like there are so many different tasks that I have for each product that I kind of just guesstimate where I am as far as how close I am to the finish line and how close I am to hitting publish. So I just have these kind of freely connected where I can assess for myself where I am progress-wise on these products. Then I have it to where how I want to prioritize my products. I have a lot of product ideas and a lot of it is just making sure I prioritize what needs to be prioritized first. So I have low, medium, and high priority. Of course, the product category. And then I have a deadline, things that I want to accomplish said product by. And then if I go into open, you'll see that there are templates. And I find specifically with products, for me, that it's easiest just to have the most simplest template. So my outline, my idea for the product on one side, and then my tasks for the product on the other side. If you want to create your own template, you can come in and hit this down arrow here, and then create your own template here if you need to. You'll see that there are templates for a new page. This is just for a new product in the product management, and then a bug fix, and we'll cover that in just a moment. Freebies will get sorted here. I do offer free downloads and free resources for my audience and community, and so those get filtered down here as a list. And I just like being able to see where I am status-wise with that freebie. I don't necessarily need to see all of this information, so I have that listed here. Same thing with updates. Any products that I need to update, I have that here in the update section. And then for my refresh section, any products that I want to refresh, either by releasing a free update or just creating a new version of said product entirely, I'll have that under the refresh section. For my bug fixes section, obviously I am a human making these things and AI is not making the products that I create. And so sometimes there's bugs, errors, typos, things like that. And a lot of times people bring those up to me nicely, or if I catch it myself, I add this to myself, my template myself. But if there is ever an issue reported to me or I catch an issue while I'm designing, I like to put that here. That way I know to go back to it later. So I can write in my own progress, the status on the bug, what the kind of product issue is, my priority for achieving the bug, and then, this product category is always filtered to bugs. So that is a look at the product management template. I use this all of the time. It is such an important and core template for me as a product-based business, and I find that this workflow works super well for that. If I want to add an idea, there is an add an idea button, so I can quickly just click this and open a new page to add my new idea. So December stickers or something like that. I could do a high priority stickers and then put my progress at 0. And this will get the idea type. That way, whenever I go to my product ideas, we'll see that listed here. And then whenever I start on said idea, it will move to my in production template here. So that's the product management page. So let's hop back to that product revenue page and see how they are connected. So in my product revenue page, I have a spot here for you to write out your revenue goals for the year, quarter, and the month. And then I have a section here where you can actually track the revenue of the products that you create. So here is the goals section of the template, and this shows you how your revenue is stacking up against the goal that you set. So for my date dot stickers, for instance, I have the price set to $5.99. My goal revenue for the year is $500. I've made $500 in total from these date dots. In order to achieve my goal revenue of $500, I have to sell date dots 83 times. And then everything is just automatically calculated for you based off the price that I set and the goal revenue that I set. And you can set these inputs for yourself by going under revenue inputs. So I have this linked out to the date dots products. So if I click this, you will see that it's actually linked to my product management database. And you'll see that this has the status tracking. If I don't want to track a specific product, I can select not tracking. Or if I need to archive the tracking for a specific product, I could do archived. I also have an identifier column if you use, a specific barcode or other identifier, GTIN, whatever you're using for your business, you can put an identifier here. I don't use identifiers for digital products, so I just have the no product name again. But this is where you put your inputs for your revenue. So under revenue inputs, you'll link out your product, you'll write out the product price, and let's go ahead and add a new page just so you can see how that looks. I'm going to add a new page. I'm going to click over here into my product column, and you'll see it's linking out to my product management. And let's go with my Notion home rental planner. I'll add that as the product, and then I'll just call this Notion Home Hub as the identifier. This is something I want to track, so I'm going to make sure tracking is selected. And let's say this was $14.99. So this is where I go in and add my revenue for each quarter. And this is information I find from, whatever platform I'm using to sell. Gumroad, Etsy, your own website, things like that. Let's say my first quarter I made $125.45. And then the next quarter I made $254.85. And then the third quarter I made $123.45. And then the last quarter I made $50.88. So I can put that in as my revenue for that Notion planner. And then if I come back over to goals, let's say my goal revenue for my Notion planner was $2,000. You'll see that it automatically calculated the amount of units I would need to sell to achieve a goal revenue of $2,000. You'll see that the year-to-date columns, this year-to-date revenue, this is how much I actually made based off the revenue I inputted for each quarter. And it calculated that for me here. It also calculated how approximately how many units I sold, how much of the Notion home planner I sold to achieve this revenue. You'll see that I didn't achieve my goal revenue of $2,000 because I only made $544, and you'll see that it shows the progress bar for 28% because of that. So these are formulas that this database has already been created for you. That way you can simply just input your revenue and then go in and insert whatever your goal revenue was so you can check the progress of that. And this is where you can make changes. Maybe you need to decrease the price of a product, maybe even increase the price of a product, or do some type of marketing surrounding that product to achieve your goal revenue. For the info section, you can see all of this info at a glance if you want to. And I also added a last updated column so you can see when you last, inputted something for your product. So that is how you use your product revenue tracker. It links out to your product management. That way you can see everything at a glance as far as how everything is connected and whether you're on track to achieve the goals that you set revenue and profit-wise for your business. Hopping into the opt-in library back over at offerings, this is where you can keep track of free downloads or resources or lead magnet deliveries that you have for your business. So you can write a name of whatever the, free resource or download is, and then the status, whether it's active, whether you paused it, or if it's inactive, or it's an archived product. A description of the opt-in, a public file or link that people can access to see that, what the actual opt-in URL is, and then the locations that you have shared it. So for instance, I shared Thanksgiving digital stickers. It's an active freebie that people can participate in and grab at any time, even though it's past Thanksgiving. I gave a description of the freebie, and I also shared exactly where they can access that freebie. And then I included where they can opt in to grab that freebie. So a newsletter form, for instance. And then I wrote out locations where it's shared. So I shared it in the monthly newsletter, and I shared the link where they can find it on my website. So that's an example of where you can keep track of all of the forums or email lists that you create for people to opt into free downloads or resources. And it's also a great place to track pixels and other things for your business. The next page is service offerings, and this is if you offer services or have courses or workshops or mentorships, things like that. This is a page that you can adapt to share out if you want to use this as an offerings page, but you can also use this just internally to keep track of all of your offerings.
So I do have it to where you can add some frequently asked questions if you do decide to share it out, as well as a small introduction. If not, you can delete this and just use this internally. So here are examples of some of the offerings. So here you can write the investment amount on the client's end, as well as the service type, whether it's a retainer, a project, ad hoc, a la carte, a workshop, a mentorship, a program, or a course. And of course, you can go in and add your own. And then the status, whether it's open, if you're almost at capacity for that offering, or if it's fully booked. And then a spot where you can write a description or what's included in that offering. So I have just different examples pulled up. This is a workshop, this is a mentorship, and then I have a course example. So I do have a course template. So if you just have a new regular service offering, the template will look like this. But if you select a new course or a workshop, so if I come in here, you can actually see the template that I use to brainstorm my courses or my workshops. So I have a brainstorm section, a resources section, a spot for writing out inspo, and then any deliverables, a description, a hero image of the offer, and then a breakdown of the different modules. And if I ever need to add one, I can just duplicate and add in a module. And then I have a section for assets, uploading important files and graphics, things specifically for marketing, things specifically for the course, or just back-end things that I need internally. I have a production checklist. So again, we see the B-roll ahead, the different shot types, what the shot I need actually is, and whether or not I got the shot. And then things that I might need to create, email forms or a course cover header, things like that. I can write that in, check it off if I need to check it off. Have the status here, idea on deck research, very in-depth templates to kind of get you started, and then your launch checklist down here. And you can also copy this and make your own changes and use that for your actual service offerings as well if you need to. So that's a look at the service offerings page. Now we're getting into resources and tools, and this is where you can save things that you learn from the internet, books, wherever that you think can be beneficial to you later. So I have one for a prompt engine. So if you come across prompts or adapt prompts, read articles about AI if you decide to integrate AI into your own business, there's spaces for that here. I have a section for skill building and notes, and then internal and product related resources or tools. And then I have one based on website. So in my business blueprint template for myself, I have things like CSS codes and examples and just a lot of educational materials. That way I'm always learning for the benefit of my own business. And so I have that spot for you here in your Creator Business Blueprint. The next one is outreach. And this is to save the outreach section of your business. So if you're always getting the same emails, you can come in and use an email template. And of course you can copy and paste this and then personalize it a little bit more for the person you're responding to. But these are good baselines. So this is just an example. Yes to a collaboration email, no to a collaboration email. And then you can go in and add your own email responses. And I have it based off whether it's a collab or a customer, but you can go in and add in your own kind of response type here as well. I also have a section for feedback and requests as well as testimonials. So if you ever get feedback or different requests within your business, you can come in and add that as well. And then I do have buttons, whether it's a new request or a new feedback. So if I just add new request, let's say the request is to create stickers in a specific color palette. What I can do is write the date that I received that, and whether that's related to something like on YouTube, social media post I made, whether it's a specific product or a freebie or just in general. For this is related to a specific product. And then I have a section for whether the request was actioned or not. So whether I took action on this post, whether I created a new product template in my product management dashboard to work on this already or not. That way I can, take some action against the request or feedback that I receive. Then I have a testimonial section, and this can be great for saving testimonials to use later for marketing purposes or just to have shared elsewhere, maybe in emails or newsletters or even on your website. So it's important to get permission for doing such. So I have a section for when the testimonial was received, what the testimonial is. So if I click into this, I can open, and then I can write what the full testimonial is and whether or not I have permission to break that up if I need to for promotional material, and what that was related to, a specific course, a specific product, a freebie, all of that. And then I have whether or not permission was requested by me and whether I have already received such permission from who wrote the testimonial. And then a spot to write where that testimonial was shared and whether or not I've posted that testimonial before. So that is just great to have. And also it's just great to reference testimonials, whether or not you decide to publish it. Hopping back, let's go to our founder corner, our last section of the Creator Business Blueprint. And I know I'm being quite thorough going through this, but a lot of this template was built out over a lot of time and me formulating this for my own business as KDigitalStudio as well. So let's hop into internal. This is where you can put, basic information about your business and any files that you need for your business, as well as the status. Active, archive, needs updating, what the file is and what category that is, operations, admin, PR networking, team management, all of that, and then what the resource is, whether it's a contract, template, an instructional, reference, things like that, and then the actual link to the file if you need to. So that's just all internal stuff. Important stuff that you kind of don't know what to do with probably, you can put it there. For finances, this has quick links to those popular pages that probably relate to finances, Collabs, product management, your product revenue tracker, and your roadmap. I also have spots where you can write your goals as they relate specifically to finances. And then I also have a database here for you to keep track of recurring expenses within your business, whether that is subscriptions or just stuff that you pay out monthly. So you can come in here and do a monthly, yearly, or canceled cycle, and you'll see that these recurring expenses are broken down by month, year. There is a table view where you can see them all, and then where you can also see canceled subscriptions as well. You can come in, write what the subscription recurring expense is, what the service is that it is providing you, the cost of said service, and then I like to have a value section, whether I think it's essential that I absolutely need, if it's just nice to have, or if I could possibly look for alternatives to save on cost. I also have a section, canceled, inactive, if it's pending, or active, and then I have notes here. So that is really great to have and keep track of for your business. The next section is employees. So if you work with any employees, influencers, contractors, independent contractors, all of that, you'll find that here. You have your quick links to tax and legal, internal, and resources. And then we see our sticky notes, which I'll get into a little bit later. That way you can see how they actually work. And then I have an employee portals database. So if you do have employees, you can actually create portals for them to access using Notion, or you can just use these internally if you don't want to share. So I have two here, Jane Doe and John Doe, with their employee pictures here, of course. So let's go into Jane. You'll see I have her salary marked, her email address, her phone number, her home address, and then her, employee photo. Here I have hiring information, so this can be the scope of her job, the description of the job, any benefits or retirement things that she might receive, paperwork that I have received or need to send to her, I can link here. And then I have Jane's portal. So this is where I can actually share out a portal with Jane if I wanted to. But again, if you don't want to share out things like that to your employees, if you work with any or contractors, all of that, you don't have to create a portal. But this can be really helpful depending on how your business operates. So here is an example portal that I've created. I have an onboarding checklist for, new employees. Any accounts or anything that they'll need access to, you can give that to them here. I also have quick links. So if you're working with like a video editor or a photo editor or a blog writer, things like that, you can actually link out to your content map or your product management, your revenue tracker, if you want to grant them access to those pages. So I have those as quick links for them to navigate. And then you'll see that I have a notes section, and these sticky notes are actually linked to that main employee page that we got to. So what's great is that they have a sticky note here that will sync to the main page that you'll see. So assuming that the employee only has access to their portal and the pages that you link inside of it, if they need to get in contact with you through Notion that you'd like to see, I like to use sticky notes. So they can write a little sticky note to you here. And then when you go into your Notion on your main employees page, you'll see that reflected here. And you'll need to link that for each, employee. I created 2 for you, but that is something to keep in mind if you want to use synced sticky notes this way. So that was a look at Jane Doe's portal. You'll see here that you can change these out depending on the scope of their job if you work with employees. So in the instance of Jane, she edits videos and she writes blog posts. And so I have those databases linked for her here. So hopping back into employees, if you need to add a new employee, you can add new employee with the new employee template. All right, we're almost done. We have tax and legal last, essentially, and this is any tax or legal documents that you need to add, that you want to save for, your Notion database. You can write in what the respective year is, what the name of that file or resource is, the type of resource, whether it's from the state or if it's a federal document, 1099, IRS, if you're in the US, of course, you can adapt this to whatever you need if you're in another country or depending on how your tax and legal system works. Notes about what that resource or file type is, and then whether you need to add or upload files and all of that here. So a very simple database for something very not so simple here. And then of course we just have our archive section if you need to drag and drop pages or templates or folders, anything here, you can, grab it using the handle here and drag it. So if you don't need to access product-based templates, for example, you can drag those to archive. So that is a full tour and look at the Creator Business Blueprint. It is very advanced and has formulas and easy to use templates, but you can see it is all organized in a very easy and intuitive way as far as how to run your business. There is a lot of my own learnings and resources throughout in creating and developing these databases, but I did include a good amount with prompts and just different workflows that you could adapt or even use for your own business. So that is a look at this massive, massive Notion resource for managing all of the easy and hard parts of your creator-based business.
And that was my Creator Business Blueprint in Notion. It has been massively helpful, as I'm sure you can see, in managing it all and just keeping things from getting lost in my own head. I'll have it linked in the description along with some of my favorite free Notion templates that I've created. And if you like this video, you'll love my video all about my Notion Life Ledger, which I use to manage all of the things in my personal life. So I will see you over there. Bye.